Stinson, tell us a little bit about your background. You know, the theme of today's talk, as we discussed at lunch the other day, is just there's so many people you hear about, see about, like I want to quit my job and go to work for myself, you know. And we talked around the pros and cons of some of that, and you guys have both done that, had W-2 jobs at one time and went to working for yourselves, both separately, independently. You don't work together. But you know, just talk a little bit about that process and how you came to the decision to do that. I think that you mentioned it was pretty easy for you because you couldn't work for anybody else or something.
Yeah.
No one else would hire you after all.
Not that anybody would hire me. I'm not hireable. It all really stemmed from getting into a franchise system, and a franchise puts you in a box and they tell you exactly what you have to do, which is great when you're learning something, but I quickly realized I wanted to do things my own way, and I had ideas that weren't in line with the franchise system, and that's when I realized that, hey, a franchise is essentially corporate America. You get to fall in line.
Well, that's what you're buying.
That's what you're buying. That's
they
right.
built the system. You're buying the system. So
business in a box. That's the way it was advertised.
Yeah.
And it was great for me in Homevestors for about 3 years until it wasn't. And leaving there was the decision to say, I want to take responsibility for all this and kind of control my own destiny rather than relying on a corporation to tell me which direction I was going to go.
Tell us about how your come up story, just background, education, growing up, anything about that to kind of...
Yeah, I mean, I moved out when I was 14, so I had a different childhood and barely graduated high school, went to one semester of college, and then started valeting cars as a second job to pay for some bad debt I acquired at 18. Don't buy ATV at 18. I thought it was crazy. It was free credit, free ATV. But I'd gotten into a bunch of debt, and so I started valeting cars at night in Dallas, and I'm from Grand Prairie, so I'd never been around this type of society where people were driving Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and it just kind of opened my eyes that things I saw in the movies I thought were just, movie stuff, but there was actually people living these lives. And as I became the manager of the valet company and started meeting these clients and building relationships, I realized they're just people just working hard, and it was really a mindset of people saying that, just do what it takes, and just a relentless willingness to do whatever it takes, right? It was the main thing I met from a guy named Josh. And I built a really good relationship with this guy named Josh, and one night, instead of tipping me money, he gave me a book, Think and Grow Rich, and said that if I wanted to change my life, I'd quit both jobs and start working for him the next day. And that guy had tipped me hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars over time. So I did that. I quit both jobs that night and started working for him the next day. And watching him, he had a similar background to me, but was living a very, very extravagant life. And so I was willing to mirror him and do whatever he asked me to do or tell me to do. And a lot of it was just reading mindset books from the early on. Yeah. Mindset and sales, right? So business to me is mostly two things, right? Or three things. Finance is one, but then it's just sales and marketing. That's like the simplicity of it. Even running a bank, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of marketing for you guys, right? To build a clientele.
Yeah, I was thinking as you were talking, I had a friend tell me one time about making those decisions to jump when the opportunity costs are a lot lower. If you're middle-aged and have kids in college and all that, then making a jump is riskier than when you're young. And he expressed it like this: your opportunities are like this, and as older you get, they narrow because the opportunity costs. Like, if you want to go to Europe and take off a month and ride the rails and whatever, when you're young you can afford to do that. Now as older you can maybe afford to do it, but you have that costs are higher, opportunity costs. So you kind of made the jump young.
I was 22, renting a room for my best friend that had a kid. I had nothing to lose, I mean, honestly, I had nothing to lose. So, and again, I'd never seen that lifestyle before. And so when somebody said, "Hey, I saw it as a door opening," right?
Yeah.
And it was. But you're totally right. I was young and had, when you're in your 20s, you can take risk. And if they don't work out, and I encourage people to take risks when they're young. If they don't work out, you can just start over.
Yeah.
It's different when you have kids and a family and big debts like houses and things like that. So when you're young, take the risk is what I believe everybody should.
Because Dick, your story was a little different. You were further along and working in a W-2 job when you decided to go work for yourself, weren't you?
Yeah, after I got here, I mean, yeah, I came here with nothing but worked a W-2 job, put in the time to save and put money away. And
Yeah, why don't you tell us your background story? Because you from Florida.
Florida, I was in the service and then moved back home.
Which service?
Air Force.
Yeah.
And then went back home and went to school and messed up my life and did everything I wanted to do and kind of semi-retired first and living that Florida life. That's when everybody gets down there on holiday and they don't get off.
Yeah.
They stay on holiday. Yeah, and then eventually was finishing up with school and the money was running out, so just had to find a job and got a job out here through a buddy from the Air Force and relationship stuff. And
Went to work for a big company, small
yeah,
company?
at L3. Worked at L3 for about 4.5 years, and like I said, I just went in with a goal, just save and put away, and because I knew that I was just using it as a stepping stone to kind of get back out on my own again. So then I started buying rentals while I was still there, because if you got W-2 money, it really helps in the financing world. Just started collecting rentals, and we just lived below our means. And yeah, then I actually met a buddy there who turned me on to all his dumps out of his portfolio when I left L3, and then the market picked up. And he just wanted to hand me these deals at below cost because he just wanted to see me prosper. Because I helped him before I was out on my own, just kind of give and take, and yeah, and then I just kind of ran with it.
So when you say you're in the real estate business, more explicitly describe what that means for you. What does that mean? You should take
Well,
dumps of real estate. You're talking about commercial, multifamily. You're talking about
Single family real estate.
homes.
No, I've always had rentals. Back during the '08 crisis, some I had to get back. That kind of messed me up for a little bit. Not just financially, but like it's a mental setback. I think a lot of people don't talk about that enough. You lose a lot of confidence. It's a big blow. And then you just have to regain that, go get you a job, get some money back in your pocket. Yeah, all single family stuff. And then I just started collecting rentals again. And I've always had a realtor everywhere I lived. My mom's been an agent for, over 20 years. And I just knew that was another path to like passive income and building wealth and, all the stuff that comes with that, paying less taxes, to get ahead, live below your means, collect assets. Yeah, so then I just eventually had enough L3 and had enough set aside and within my budget where I could just get out of that, and then I have a spouse too that helps.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, at least I hear in my business, how to get started, how do I get started? And they talk about raising capital, that's something, both of you touched on something that I think is often not talked about is, a good way of raising capital is by not spending money. As funny as that may sound, they want to live the same lifestyle of their parents or whatever, or maybe even later in life, but they aren't willing to make the step to go backwards or to really cut back and kind of have what I call that immigrant lifestyle.
Right, you have to sacrifice, and my wife's an immigrant too, so like and I've lived overseas. I lived in a tent for 3 years, so you kind of get down to where you can live in a 5x5 space with not much. If I could sell it all tomorrow, get down to a carry-on, and just be free and travel and hopefully maintain some sort of income and through investments. But just I never want to be stuck. That was the biggest thing.
So you started by not using outside money, but using your own money at least for down payments.
Right. Yeah.
To start with.
Our first house here in Waco.
No partners, no investors, just what you did yourself.
We paid cash, then we did a deed of trust and leveraged it for our next one without a down payment, and then then we started having to put money down. It kind of just snowballed, and then through relationships, my buddy Tom he literally just started handing me gifts, and he wanted to see me learn, grow. He loved the speed. Once I got the guys I'm with now, he literally is like, I just love watching how fast it goes. Like you could turn a house in like a month, like a full gut job.
So you're buying lower end houses, remodeling them, holding as rentals or selling them?
All above. Owner finance, for sale, flips, and then rentals too. Just depends on, it's all individual, depending on the house or where you're at money wise.
Yeah.
then, through Facebook and the market taking off here in Waco, I met with Stinson and, through the meetups and stuff that he was hosting, and just more relationship stuff.
Stinson, tell us your path to the real estate business. You mentioned working a franchise operation, but I'm not sure I even understood for a while what you were doing.
Yeah, so before real estate, it was I was doing marketing online. Not to get too deep into it, but before pay-per-click and online advertising was easy, this is in 03, 04, we were generating leads online for essentially small cap companies that were going to IPO, and they needed to find investors. And we carved out a niche in that space, and all our clients were, if you just think of the words I'm saying there, the clients are in New York, they're going to IPO, they're small cap companies, they have money to spend. It was a highly profitable business. In 08, when the market crashed, I was in my mid-20s, and I was living that lifestyle that I was seeing as a valet. I instantly thought I deserved that, right? Mm-hmm. So I was making good money, but I was living large check to large check. In 08, when the stock market crashed, literally the day Lehman Brothers filed bankruptcy, I knew the show was over. At that time, I was leasing 2 cars, I was leasing a penthouse apartment in downtown Dallas, and I had saved
You're
up.
living the life.
I thought, right? I thought it was.
Did you go back to those places and hey, park my car? Did you do something?
Yeah. So I would started going back to that. I constantly was going back to those places because of I went from being a valet to working for one of the guys that was always at those places, and but I was very naive. I was ignorant, not even naive. I was ignorant, and it was smoke and mirrors, right? When Lehman Brothers filed bankruptcy, I knew the show was over. I had basically a ton of tax debt. Everything was borrowed, right? It was all leased, but I had some cash. So I instantly started thinking, what should I do now? Like I don't know how to say it, a world of trouble. It's the nicest way to say it, because it was a house of cards. It was going to come crumbling down really fast. I knew the tax man was coming at me, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought, hey, knowing what I know about the stock market and marketing, buy low, sell high, that's all I kept saying to myself, buy low, sell high, buy low, sell high. And the housing market had crashed. Well, I believe that the housing market, I don't think the economy is sustainable if the housing market's not propped up. So I believe the government was going to prop up the housing market like they did the car manufacturers and banks and all kinds of stuff. So I started exploring flipping houses, and there's a franchise in Dallas. It just started as a franchise to buy in, and they would teach you how to flip houses, Home Investors of America. At that time, it was one business, Fred DeLuca, who started Subway, the sandwich company. He owns franchise brands, so he'd find companies and turn it to a franchise model. At that time, we were like the, second, third franchises in Dallas. Now there's over 2,000 franchises across America. The guy's a billionaire, literal billionaire. But I bought a franchise. I financed that too. Well, that was part of it. They would let you finance it. You put 50 grand down, and then you paid it. Yeah. You didn't really finance it. You paid fees on every house you sold, but you owed them money, right? So you're paying them back. So that's how I got into the buying house business. And there, I'd never bought a house. I was leasing everything. So they taught me how to buy a house, how to rehab a house, how to run the numbers. They provided financing, which was a critical component. So if you paid them X amount of money, they would generate leads. You go out and meet the sellers, try to buy the houses. Once you buy the house, they would provide financing for you at a cost, right? And then they would also help you with the exit strategy and things like that. So that was my way of buying a business in a box to learn something I had no experience in. And this is in 2009. I'm
always impressed with company or whoever can come up with an advertising line that just sticks. And the only reason I remember Home Investors because they had that great line, had billboards all over, we buy ugly houses.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, the caveman, right? And, I mean, shoot, that was 2009. It's 2025, and they're still running. That caveman's still on TV.
Yeah.
It's not. There's 3 franchises here in Waco. I'm friends with all of them. There's 3 franchises in Waco, Home Investor franchises.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned earlier, they put you in a box.
Yeah.
And it was tough for me there.
Yeah. I guess the value of that was providing the leads, right?
Well, that's the big divide there is that if the three of us own a franchise in Waco, we all put in, say, $1. Well, if a lead comes in, it goes around, right? One per person. Well, if I put in $3 and you guys both put in $1, I get 3, he gets 1, he gets 1. Well, the biggest issue I had is that they were doing all old school, which I still do, is direct mail, but they weren't doing anything online. No SEO, no pay-per-click, and this is, my background was internet marketing. I was pushing to do internet marketing, and at that time, they were very old school. I mean, the CEO was 70 years old, and if you think about a 70-year-old in 2009, they weren't on social media or anything like that back then. So that was a big push for me to leave Home Investors, because when I came in, we were paying about $99 a lead, right? And in my business, direct-to-seller marketing to buy houses, we closed about 5% of our leads. So when I bought in, it was about $2,000 to buy a house, right? $100 a lead, 20 leads, $2,000. By the time I got out, we were paying about $500 a lead, because they were selling so many franchises. Instead of there being 3 of us, there was 12 of us, and the pie is only so big. So we were competing with our checkbooks to get a bigger piece of the pie, but the pie wasn't growing. So instead, by us competing to get more leads, we were driving the lead cost up, because they weren't expanding their marketing channels. They were just doing the same marketing over and over. And that franchise, they take 10% of the advertising. That's part of the franchise model. So then you think you're paying interest on your franchise, you're paying 10% of your marketing. They got us in a competition, so we're all spending more on marketing. And then they also took 1% when you sold a house. So it was a great opportunity, and they taught me everything I knew at the early stages of my career. But 3 years into it, it's like, I can do this a lot better, I thought, marketing wise, and I could cut a lot of costs, because it was a huge expense. And on top of that, the franchise, they sold so many franchises in Dallas, because that's where headquarters were. They closed off franchise sales in Dallas. So now my franchise had actually gained value, right? When I bought in, it was a big risk, but now they'd closed and they were selling like crazy, so I could sell my franchise for more than I bought it for.
Yeah.
So it was like, hey, I can sell something I don't like and make money.
It just dawned on me, listening to your stories, they're really different from the standpoint. You got a marketing, advertising background, and I'll touch on it in a minute. You built a system there to generate these leads, and a real complex system, and you got a whole program together. And you mentioned, Derek, sounds like yours is more, you started talking about building your network. You know,
Relationships.
Relationship deal. Like I assume you don't have a real complicated marketing system, but just talk about how that network, how you use that network both on the buys, the rehabs, sales, or whatever. That connection of people.
Ultimately, it's give more than you take, and it's long-term thinking versus short-term thinking.
But the network of where you find houses. How do you find the deals that you do? Where do you look for them?
I haven't really had to look too hard, because I just build relationships.
But the referrals.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
One-on-one type referrals. People send you deals, right?
Well, like say my buddy Tom pumped me out a bunch of houses. The granite guy that owns a granite shop, he's like, hey, you need a house? I was like, yeah. Most money I ever made on a house that I didn't have to touch. I didn't even change the locks. It's literally just, and then.
Do they call you to take them out of deals, or just deals they run across, or
Out of deals, right?
get them out of deals?
Yeah, taking them off their plate. Just like Tom's, like they were just kind of dumps, and then it was easier to sell them to me and watch me grow. And then I've tried to give back to Tom as well, kind of like sharing the wealth kind of thing. They had to do something with them anyway. They're just sitting there and going to go to waste, and it's easier to share with your friends than just try to like sell at retail. And but it's all really just relationships.
And then, as far as what you do to them, preparing them, maintenance them, rehabbing and whatnot, you got your part of the system you build there is the people that can do the work and how to manage all that, right? I mean, you're basically a remodeling company,
right,
to yourself right now.
Yeah,
right?
I'm getting to the point where I'm having to actually build a real company just because the market's just pushing us that way.
Explain that a little bit. You were just doing it for yourself, you mean?
Yeah, I was just doing all my own personal flips and remodels.
So you'd hire different subs to come in and do the work?
Right. I started out like most people, and I hired a guy for the first time. I knew he was 50-50 on the scale of sketchiness, so I just put it on the credit card, and I said, this is in case you try to get me. Sure enough, he tried to get me, so I just disputed it, got my money back. Actually bonus, got some free flooring and stuff. And then, okay, I got to find somebody else, and just that's the hardest part, and that's
So
kind of why I took on.
So you GC, you general contract your own rehab.
I do, and
You get different subs. You don't have a GC that comes in there and does the whole thing.
No.
You're doing that part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The biggest thing was cost savings, and the number one problem is finding a contractor that's not going to take all your money and actually going to care and all the above.
So Derek GC's, for me, our project manager, whatever you want to call it, like he's not in there swinging a hammer. And this is a relationship. I looked at it today. The first deal we did together, I looked at it today, was 2022, which is crazy to me. It feels like it's only been a year, but it's been since 2022. We met through networking, and I've sold the houses to Derek, so he's got deals from me as well. But it's not about hiring a GC is one thing. They're happy to take your money, but like I trust Derek. We're friends now. Having him there to be a second set of eyes that actually cares about stuff is quality control is one of the biggest things. Because for me to run my business, it's impossible for me to be there every day. I looked at 5 houses yesterday. I can't be at the projects and running the materials and meeting with sellers and keeping my books in line for you guys. It's just impossible. I'm a small business. So having somebody that you trust that has the same standards as you do it's invaluable, So like going back to our original, meaning of all this, like if you're going to start a business, I would say finding people that are in line with your values and think of things the way you do, whether it's quality control on rehabs or the same core values in business, is really important to make sure you're aligned and moving with people that are going in the same direction.
Yeah, the service is secondary. It's just dealing with decent human beings at the end of the day. That are you going to do what you say you're going to do, or you're going to stand behind. I don't know if we talked about this the other day at lunch, but like I saw on the internet recently after the plumbing mishap, somebody trusts you. Okay, they trust you 50%. You mess up, you come back and you own it, they trust you 100 times more because nobody does it anymore. You know, accountability and stuff, and it further extends the relationship.
So to touch on something he's mentioning there, we had a plumber that did really bad plumbing work on one of my houses. Really bad, terrible.
My plumber.
Yeah, it was his plumber, right? I wasn't mad at Derek. Derek said, we talked about, we're going to get fixed. The plumber came back to fix it and didn't fix it. And then he disappeared on us. That plumber was so short-sighted because now the plumber that came in to fix it, we paid him good money, but immediately he's on the new guy's on every
payroll,
job.
basically.
He's on payroll. That's what I told Corey. I said, hey, you saved my ass. Like, you're on every job. Even on this job we're doing right now, Derek's guys can easily do faucets and all this easy plumbing, but I owed Corey because he saved us in that situation. So it's probably 3 times the price to pay Corey to change faucets, but he came in and saved me and did it over the weekend. So I'm happy to pay Corey 3 times the price of paying our other guys.
He's going to stand behind it. If his stuff messes up, he's going to own up, come and fix it, regardless if a homeowner's in there and stuff. Accountability, doing what you say you're going to do, standing behind your stuff.
And see what goes with the guys that, the crew that Derek's running right now. For us, it was really important that these guys, they don't drink. And in our business on the subcontractor side, a lot of these guys live check to check, hand to mouth. And when we found guys that are religious and don't drink and show up every day on time with a decent attitude.
It's tug of war. It's a marriage when you're around people all the time.
We're around each other all the time, right? And we're running projects, and there's money involved. There's obviously the human nature of complex relationships, but these guys we trust a lot just because, again, their core values are in line with ours of, hey, we're going to show up and do what we say we're going to do and get it done to a good quality, right? And we've stuck with these guys for a while.
It's funny because I grew up, as y'all know, in the trades and watched my father build a business like that. And I guess that's why I'm so biased towards relational type people versus transactional. It's not that one's wrong or not. I'm just biased that way because I was around it. And I thought, how much of the business of the great business people I know, how much of the business they do that they don't even get bids on, or, hey, tell me what's your price, and then I decide whether I want to buy or not. Right. And I'm talking big transactions,
right,
or handshake deals. Yeah, they can lawyer up and they can get good attorneys. In fact, I put some people together yesterday at lunch. They're thinking about doing some business together. They're both in the trades, and I told them the reason I thought that they'd be good for each other is because they're trying to figure out now a way how to kind of marry some business together. And I was like, the best thing about you guys are that you can do it on a handshake.
That's what I've been.
You know, like they're going to try this. If it doesn't work out, they're going to say, hey, this is not working out for me as well. And there's nothing big to unwind. There's no big contract. You know, there's a time when you come and you, obviously, especially
Sure.
in my banking background, there's a time to properly document things. I wouldn't say not do that. But the biggest part of the relationship is the handshake stuff, because they're not going to end up suing each other. They're just going to be like, hey, this isn't working out the way I hoped. What can we do to go either change it or disband it
Part
without a
ways.
bunch of legal costs and that kind of stuff? And I thought even at high levels, I mean,
Yeah.
these relationships that are built over the years back home in the family business, their relationships now starting on the third generation of referring business to each other. Oh yeah, we do his work, but his dad owned the building supply, and we did his work, and it just passes through. And you know, that was a reputation that you know, I don't mind saying, the bank we purchased, I may have told you the story, the bank we purchased as a group, you know, we got the bank because they told us, said, and I don't tell the story on me because I had nothing to do with it, but we were the second highest bidder. It was a small town bank, and they said, you know, we went with y'all because I knew your dad, went to school with him in high school, and I knew if you were his son, you're going to do what you said you would do with our bank.
That's
And I was like,
invaluable.
I was like, well, you just guaranteed it now. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, I can't go out on
now.
that, you know, and I kind of got emotional about it because I was like, man, I have nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was some big dollars involved. And it wasn't me, I was representing 100 people. But that was just so powerful, you know, just say, you'll do what you say you're going to do. And at the end of the day, and we papered the thing and all that, but my gosh. It's so much of business, even within big companies, you know, I can come across at big companies. They deal with these vendors because if something goes wrong, somebody knows somebody. They're going to call them and say, Derek,
Yep.
I know there's 5 layers of people between us, but we got a problem. You know, and they'll, well, how do we fix it?
Right.
And it's a lot more fun that way, for sure.
I mean, that's how business is. I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately, if you look at it, every business is successful or not based on who they know and what their reputation is, right? Like this, I say everything's marketing, but just Derek being on the relationship side, he's marketing himself, right? As somebody
Yeah.
reliable and trustworthy
Yeah.
and somebody to work with. So I think all business is based on that, is who you know and what you're known for, right?
Yeah. Before we leave that part, just give us a look at the 10,000 foot level. The system that you built to get those leads and stuff is, I mean, you've got a pretty complex system. It's not just driving around looking at property like I think of, like, hey, let's run that property. Let me go look to the records and see who owns that or get a few referrals. I mean, you've built a complex system.
Yes, sir.
And I think it's worth mentioning because some people don't realize, you know, how much work is involved in the details of some of this stuff. Like, hey, it's a
Yeah.
ton of work.
Yeah, so a lot of people think that when they see, not a lot of people, some people might think when they look at my business, I just buy houses, invest some money into them and sell them for a profit or rent them. At the high level, that's it. But the back end is, I mean, you've seen what I call our banker's Bible. It's this thick. You know, we track every KPI.
Explain that, KPI.
Key performance indicators. So I know exactly what each lead costs based on what lead channel it is, what our response rate is, what our closing ratio is for each marketing channel. And then for somebody starting out in business, knowing your numbers is critical, number one, because when you start, typically, you don't have a lot of money, so you can't afford to burn through cash or not know that you're burning through cash. So a new business owner really needs to know where their money's going and how it's performing, and tracking that data, a KPI of some sort, no matter what business is in. If you're a car wash business, you need to know if you're putting $100 in Facebook marketing, how many cars are you washing, right? And then what's the cost of the materials that you're using to wash the car, so you know what your true net profit is.
Yeah.
It's, you know this better than anybody. You're a banker. Like, gross income doesn't mean anything, right?
Yeah.
So you got, it's net. What do you net is the real number.
It doesn't
right?
service debt, I can tell you that.
That's right. You know, so having the marketing's one side, but you know this as the bank, having our books completely cleaned. Derek knows this. I'm like, I gotta go take care of my books. You know, that's something extremely critical to me. I mean, right now we have 17 houses in different phases. Like, that's a lot of financing moving around. So I need to know if I'm in a cash crunch, or can I afford to go out and offer on houses. I got lines of credit that you know, they're they're not huge lines. So I got to make sure I have enough cash to buy the houses, to keep the guys paid, to have the materials coming in, and to keep the marketing machine going, so we keep buying houses. So that knowing your numbers and going into a business and treating it like a business and not a hobby is like the most critical thing when starting out.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you talked about your system. That's the difference between someone using it as a hobby, buying 1 or 2 or 3 houses a year and play with them, and they've got the cushion to do that because they have other income and all that. That's one thing. But when you start talking about making that leap to doing this full time at whatever level,
You built a machine.
You got to build a system around it.
That's right.
It's a different thing.
I mean, my system goes so detailed that now with AI, because I don't take the calls, every day I get a report, all the calls that come in from the marketing, say 10 to 15 calls a day come in of people interested in selling their house. I have somebody, Edwin, answer the phone, but now AI is grading it based on things I've set up. And I get a report every day on what happened with the leads, where did the leads come from, and what's the grade based on these numbers, these KPIs I set. AI is changing everything to where I was able to let somebody go and our business is flourishing because we took a cog out of the wheel. It was actually a stopgap, it was a bottleneck.
Yeah.
And AI has actually changed that.
I heard we'll talk about the mental health part of this and then we'll let y'all get out of here and go run your businesses. But I stumbled across this other day and I never thought about it in this way, but they said for people that are entrepreneurs that they either develop or somehow have, because common trait, kind of reverse, what's the term for when you forget? When you forget,
I don't know, it's happening right now.
Yeah, I'm doing it now. But you can't remember what happened yesterday or whatever.
Short-term memory?
Yeah. What's the word for it? Like you wake up and all your memories.
Oh, amnesia.
Amnesia. Reverse amnesia.
Yeah.
That's the word I couldn't think of. They have reverse amnesia. Amnesia means like just then you can't remember current, but they either forget or can't remember the bad stuff. Like when they see a certain level of success, now you've been doing it well, and that's what people see, right? Or our group bought a $30 million bank in assets, and now we're $1 billion. Or my dad started that business in '56, and it's still there, 68 years later.
Incredible.
In the trades business, in the HVAC business. You don't hear entrepreneurs sit around like now and talk about, well, let me tell you about the time I had to fire my brother-in-law. Or let me tell you about the time we had a 20-year employee that stole from us. Let me tell you about the time that, I didn't have enough money for payroll and had to figure that out. No one talks about that. They see the upside. They see the cars being parked. And it's funny when you hear that, if you follow Ramsey's, like, he didn't realize till he was late in life and Dave Ramsey went through bankruptcy and stuff that about 80% of those people are broke, as he defines it. And he's kind of a car guy. He's like, when you get to a point you can afford the toy, go buy the toy. But so many are buying the toys.
It's all for show.
They're
That was me in
broke.
my 20s.
He calls them broke people, But I mean, speak to that. You kind of made me think about when you said touch on the mental health part of it, Derek. It's easy to forget because we don't want to remember. We certainly don't talk about a lot.
So-called growing pains.
The growing pains, the hard things. People that, especially I'm thinking about that person that's really thinking about, I've done this on the side, I've had some success, but I'm thinking about, quitting my job and going in business for himself. And I certainly would encourage them to do that. But they really have to have a lot of self-awareness.
Some people just get stuck on the negative and don't want to take the leap to,
Yeah.
guilty of that.
The fear.
Yeah.
Fear, and then it's easy to start getting a list and even if you want to leave the house on the weekend and get all these reasons like, oh, well, I don't want to go.
Mm-hmm.
I saw something Gary Vee touches on a lot too. Like you're an entrepreneur, you really have to lean into the mistakes, the setbacks, like the plumbing thing. I literally sat in a hole for about 3 days with the plumber because I wanted to be his helper because I felt bad, and it's my responsibility.
The guy trying to fix it.
Yeah.
The plumber, not trying, he was fixing it.
Well, I was trying to ease the bill too.
That's what I'm saying, but you're working with the guy trying to correct the problem.
Yeah.
That's right. Under the house. The guy was under the house. In a hole.
Yeah, so at that particular situation, I'm just trying to make the bill lighter so they don't have to pay a helper to come out.
You mentioned the Gary Vee thing. One of the things he talks about a lot is, you mentioned the fear. See if you agree with this. It's the fear. It's not the fear itself. it's a fear of what other people think about you failing or whatever.
Well,
you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
And it's the
We-
dumbest
most
thing
people
ever,
like,
'cause
we worry so much about what everybody
nobody's
thinks.
thinking about
Yeah.
anybody but
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that too. Like,
But if you had to step back to, oh my gosh, what do other people think? And that's what you preach so much against, is quit worrying about what other people think so much.
well, it's
That's a
like
big issue.
overthinking. I'll start overthinking stuff, and it's like somebody with a lower IQ, they just go and do it. You know what I mean? They don't think about anything. And even if they hit these roadblocks, setbacks, or screw things up, they just keep on going and do it because they don't know any better, because the carrot or the goal's out there, and you just keep going. And ultimately, now you want to have some preparation or some planning. You don't want to quit your job and still have your bills to pay. I mean, I have a friend who just
Yeah.
quit his job at L3, cashed out his 401k, jumped in, thought he was going to buy a bunch of rentals, supplement his income, but he was just so naive and so nice, and he just got rickrolled by contractors, realtors. I mean,
And
that's
poor
that.
planning.
Yeah,
He had poor planning.
I mean,
he didn't have a plan.
yeah, he didn't, and he not dumb. You know what I mean? But he just, I think he was just so upset.
Did he ever sit down and ask you your opinion about doing that? Or did he ask you for any details about, hey, here's my plan, here's my business plan, what do you think about this? Take a
No,
look
he
at
didn't ask anybody, because I wasn't working with him after a certain point. I left, you know, in 2017. But my friend Tom, who sold me these houses, who knows this gentleman, I literally asked him, I said, did you reach out to Thomas? You know he's got houses. I think some people, it's like my guys, they don't want to ask for help. My guy said he got a third rental house here yesterday. He's going to make the payments. They don't, no, they're proud, and they don't want to ask for help from somebody else because they want to do it on their own. And yeah, I think it's a pride thing.
So it's crazy about that situation with the guys getting his third rental house. When he was working on one of our houses, and I told him what we paid for the house and what it was renting for, I saw his eyes get really big.
Yeah.
He realized real quick that he was paying like twice what we were paying for these houses.
Yeah.
But his, I guess, ego, right? He never came to ask it, not even advice, just opinions, right? Like, I've been doing this long enough that I can underwrite a rental. I have a spreadsheet on my phone on Google Drive that we can underwrite it in 30 seconds. You know, if he just asked me if the numbers made sense, I could tell him.
But I've tried to help them in the beginning. I really tried, like, hey, I want you to go with us.
Yeah,
Go
grow.
with me.
Grow.
But it was just, you know, they're a Hispanic culture. I think it's this machismo kind of ego pride, whatever you want to call it. But I'm glad he's doing it, but he doesn't want anyone else's help, so he can say he did it on his own. And his money situation is different. I know he's getting some owner finance deals to where, you know, it's a little easier to finance.
To go back to your amnesia thing, I think it's really important for business owners to have a little bit of amnesia, right? Like, I've taken plenty of losses over the years. There's one thing, you need to study that loss and learn from it, right? Those are opportunities to learn your mistake and improve. But you can't get in your head so much that it slows you down or creates a roadblock. When you take a loss, we're all going to take loss, business, personal life, whatever. When you take a loss or you hit a roadblock, you need to learn from it and then move forward aggressively with that new information. Like, don't think of it as a loss. It's a attribute, right? Like, you now know what not to do or how
Winning
to.
and learning.
Yeah, like
There are no losses.
even a loss, if you look at it as a gain because you know what to do moving forward, you should be able to move forward more aggressively and more confidently, right?
Yeah, it's a fine line between learning from it and not dwelling on it.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. You need
I
some
got a thing on my
amnesia.
desk about don't stumble over things that are behind you, but you can't ignore them either, because you'll make the same mistakes twice, you know, and not dwell and beat yourself up about it. It's a fine line. That's why I like sports. There's a meritocracy. You know, you see the results immediately, but that's when you were talking about that, reminded me of something that, you know, I was fortunate, had a great mom, and that old deal of you kind of are who you hang around, you know,
Yeah, 100%.
when you're going through that stuff. If you're not hanging around people that are at least positive, that can do that kind of thing, that you can go to and talk to, and if you're just around the people that are negative and drag you down, it's, you know, you're just going to go down that path. We think we're all strong and individual, but if you've got to limit yourself, not maybe cut them out, but you got to limit yourself on how much you spend around those people, because
Todd,
to do this,
perfect example. Sorry to
you
cut
got
off.
to get up and hit it every day, you know.
Perfect example is I moved out when I was 14. And at 14, I was just going where I went, right? I had no idea. My freshman year, I met my now best friend, who's why I'm here in Waco, Adam. Adam is a very intelligent person. I was messing off through school. I wasn't going to finish school. I was just trying to survive and just deal with life. Life had given me a bad hand, right? Is what I thought at that time. If it wasn't for him, he was going to go to college and become a cardiologist. He knew that, right? And he knew that at, we were, 14? He was telling me that's what I'm going to do. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have finished high school. Who knows how my life would have went? But just having that one person, one person came into my sphere of influence and became my best friend. He changed everything just because of that. Hey, this is what I'm going to do. You need to have goals. You need to go to school. I was struggling with school because I was just struggling with life. And he was like, hey, no, I'm going to help you with this. You got to at least finish high school, you dumbass.
That is so uncanny, because I know who you're talking about. I've got a good friend that just retired from that same cardiology group, and he's well known. I mean, I hate that he retired because he's just so good. He does it for the right reasons. He just recently retired from that. And I asked him, I said, hey, I'm just curious, like, why did you decide to go into medicine? I'm just curious. Was your father a doctor or mother or somebody you grew up around or whatnot? He said, no, I came from a small town, agricultural based, we had a lot of land but didn't have a lot of money and that kind of thing. And said that was one thing, we were always up and down. And I wanted something that had steady income. But he said, more importantly, to your point, he said, I was good in math. That's what he said. I was good in math and science. And like in high school. But he was like, I could just flow through that stuff. And they're like, what are you doing? Are you studying a lot? He said, it's just like foreign language. It just clicked with me, whatever. So he goes to UT. First semester, from small town, he's at UT. He said, man, he's having a good time. This is great. Parents not around. He comes and goes at once, having a good time. And enjoyed himself a little too much. And his grades were really bad that first semester. And he got on SCOPRO or Scholastic Probation or something. Like, hey, you got to pick it up the second semester, whatever. Especially if he wants to go to med school. It's like, hey, whatever. But he said that one guy, a roommate, pulled him aside and said, as simple as this, small system, you build a system around it. He said, do what I do. He said, you're too smart to be doing this. Treat it like a job. Designate 40 hours a week to this job. You're in class or you're studying. Just 40 hours a week. You're plenty smart. That's all you need is 40 hours a week. Some people may need more, but he said 40 hours a week. When I work, you work. When I play, you play. And he said, I started doing that, and I had a great time. And he said, I started making straight A's. And from that second semester on, flew through academically, and he was highly acclaimed in his cardiology world. But that one guy pulled him aside and said, just treat it like a job. Work when I work, play when I play. And he said that saved him. Or he said, I don't know what I'd be doing now.
It's funny, the same guy I'm talking about, he ended up meeting up with a guy that we're all still friends with, and he's also a doctor now, but it was different. They got into a competition, right? They had this rival. They were good friends, but it became a competition, who could get the best grades and all this. I mean, they're both brilliant guys. Their street smarts are way low, but their book smarts are real high. But they got into a competition. It was like they were back to that sphere of influence. They were driving each other because they wanted to be cardiologists, right? Like, you can't just limp into med school. You got to be a top performer.
I'll lead off with this and we'll wrap it up. If you could think of one or two things advice that you would give to somebody that's thinking about starting a business or going to work for themselves or whatever form. And by the way, I mentioned about people early on, but I'm fascinated. I can't remember the guy's name, but as people, this idea of you have to retire at 65 and quit, if you're doing what you're doing, you don't have to do that. You need to do what makes you happy. The guy that formed Grey Goose vodka started at 78. He developed Grey Goose brand at 78 years old, not 1978, 78 years old. And then 7 years later, when he was 85, he sold it for $2 billion. I read the other day, $2 billion to Bacardi Limited, which was, I think at the time, it was the largest closely held spirits company in the world for $2 billion. And he formed that brand at 78 and sold it at 85. And I thought that's great inspiration for people. I mean, my gosh, whether you love them or hate them, Trump's running at late 70s, and they were laughing on TV while the newspapers like he just can't slow down. So it's different for everybody, but you're never too late to get into something you love and do it. I would encourage somebody, if they're self-aware enough to do this, to make the leap at whatever age, I guess. And I said I'd kick off with this, especially in my business. Someone said it, I think it's true. It's going to take to start a deal or whatever. It usually takes twice as much capital as you think, and probably twice as long to get whatever you consider it being successful, or at least I'm going to make it. Just plan on it being twice as much money and twice as long. We have people coming with business plans all the time, and like, okay, what's your contingency plan if you need more capital? We can only help so much and that kind of thing. But if someone could say, hey, what's the one or two top things you would tell, someone that's thinking about doing this, best advice you could give them?
Yeah, for me, I would say, kind of going back to what I said earlier, is knowing the numbers is really important. I feel like a lot of people I used to run a networking thing here in Waco for investors. It was a lot of young people, and when I would talk to them about what their business model was or things like that, they'd never even looked at the numbers, and just understanding the numbers of a business and how to project that is really, really important. It's business is at the end of the day, business is numbers, right?
Yeah.
Like at the very end of the day, your business can be put on about 2 sheets of paper, and a banker can tell you whether it's a good or bad business.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the widget is, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's house buying or selling water bottles or whatever the equipment is. So understanding the numbers of the business and really researching the industry to know what the opportunity is. So you go in with a clear view of what's in front of you would be number one. Number two is to find successful people that you can have as a mentor or somebody that you can have as a soundboard, whether they're successful in your space or just successful in general. If somebody's ran a business like your father's business has been around for 70 years, like that man and your family has some valuable information there, because historically small businesses, which it is, right, don't have that runway. So finding an advisor with experience of success, no matter what space it is, would be super critical.
Yeah, most of it's learned the hard way. We
That's right.
see that so many times. If people come in with business ideas, the concept person or whatever, and they get sometimes angry or disheartened with you, like, it's not that that's a bad idea, but the guy that started Apple, he didn't get a bank loan for it. If you're not that person, then you better have it. And then he or she better, okay, well, I'm the salesperson, I'm the product person, I'm this. That's okay. Who's that?
You gotta have.
And if you just have that, you can't do. Sometimes it's not the same person to do this because they don't have enough vision to build. They're so conservative with the numbers, they can't build or grow and think. It takes a combination, and so many people get so idealistic, or they've got such, they're so bought into I'm just going to do this, and that's great. You got to have that, but you better have somebody that can come behind you and say, how's the math going to work, and how you either pay the bills or pay the debt or do it with capital, whatever.
That's another thing is knowing your weaknesses and accepting your weaknesses. Like I'm a salesperson, I'm a mover. I'm like Derek, I don't like to sit still. I like to deal with people. So I had to hire somebody. All that stuff I give to the bank, I don't put that together. I look at it, make sure it's right. But I had to hire somebody, a lady that's very detailed, she takes all the numbers and organizes. I give her I'm the visionary and she's the implementer. That's how we talk about our business. I'm the visionary. This is what I want to happen. This is the way I see it happening. And then she goes and implements it. Yeah. So if a lead comes from this, I want to track this away. I have no idea how she does that, right? But I know I can get those reports, and I know how to read the reports because I'm the visionary on it. So like knowing your weakness and leaning into your strengths would be probably better advice than having an advisor.
That guy at lunch said that yesterday too. Is one of the things about growing his business. Said as soon as he could afford, when he hired, and I think people don't realize what he called a fractional CFO. Yep. Said the best thing he ever did in his company. He couldn't afford to have them full time. Yep. But now there's so many people that will work from home. Fractional just means they'll work on a contract basis and kind of have how many hours you can afford. But it made such a huge difference. And then I think he got to the size where now brought either that person or a different person on full time. But what would you say, Derek?
But to touch on that at the end, I'm going to have to get a bookkeeper because I hate it. You know what I mean?
Know your weakness.
You're basically just subbing it out and being able to, don't be afraid to delegate or learn how to delegate. You can't do it all yourself. You do need other people. I have a hard time with delegating because trust, and it's like, if they fail, they fail. Just, certain things you want to handle yourself. But don't be afraid to delegate when the time's right. Capital, I think a lot of people want to start something, even real estate, they want to get into flipping homes and, just go borrow money or do it all on hard money. That's what my friend did. He had some capital, but he went out and put 15% down on 4 different houses, but all on hard money without knowing anything. So I have capital.
Define hard money for people that don't know what that is.
Hard money, basically just a private loan.
Private lender.
Yeah, the higher interest rate.
Higher interest, short-term financing at very high interest rate.
High interest rate, high fees.
High fee, lots of points.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
fees.
don't care.
Private
It's
money.
not relationship stuff. They don't care if you're in a jam or a bind. They usually don't want to work with you. They don't necessarily want your asset back, but they're not going above and beyond to try to work with you. Capital, and then what was the question again?
Just the advice you would give to somebody that's thinking about starting.
Think about your reputation. Just word is bond kind of thing. We still do handshake deals. Just do what you say you're going to do. Stay accountable for your mistakes. It doesn't cost you any. It does cost you anything when you stop being accountable for your mistakes.
You mentioned delegation. I ran across the definition the other day I really loved was whether you're trying to scale a business or just manage what you got. 2 qualifiers to be able to delegate to someone. I thought they're spot on. Competency and integrity, and measured in this way. Competency that they can do the job that you need them to do. That's pretty self-evident. Integrity defined as will they follow through and do it. Those aren't always the same thing.
That's right.
I mean, can you trust them? Yeah, they know what to do, but they will do what they say they're going to do when they say they will do it. And if they don't have the integrity to do it, you can't scale. Right. You can't give them that job if you got to fall behind them and see if that they can't. If they're not going to do it when they say.
Come back when something's not right.
Yeah,
too.
it's competency and integrity. I mean, that is true.
That person I said we let go of, and the business has flourished since letting that person go. They were really good at their job. Their job was working the phones and working the leads, and they were really good. I mean, amazing. I called her a chameleon. She could build rapport with anybody. But she got burned out, and she wasn't making the calls, right? Like my business is a lead business, and leads are about follow up, and persistence. And once we had made the change in the business, I started going back, and this fell on me. I should have been analyzing the numbers on the calls, but she wasn't making the calls. She was checking. The CRM tells her to make a call. She was. I could see her task. I was seeing that her tasks were cleared every day, but I wasn't going in there and seeing that all the calls were like 3 rings hang up. Because my system will tell me she's making the call, but she was hanging up before they would answer. Yeah. So it's that, that integrity, she had lost that in the business.
And especially, in our business, it's highly regulated. When you grow in a highly regulated business, especially, we open new markets and stuff. If you don't have a team of people that are going to do what they say they're going to do, you'll get yourself in really bad trouble.
Big trouble.
Yeah.
For what you guys do.
Yeah, not only from a business risk standpoint, but just documentation. It's not what you do, what you document in this type of business. And there's so many businesses that are highly regulated, food services, healthcare, all this kind of stuff. It's the same thing. They've got to do those things, and if you don't have people that can do it, you just can't grow. You just can't delegate. And it kind of falls in line with the other part of growing, too, is, sometimes I'm going to a forum group, like you mentioned, networking group, along to a forum group with our trade association, and it's bankers from all across the state, get together 3 times a year. And one of the things they'll hear them talk about, just can't, some of them just can't keep good people and whatnot. And I always talk about, it's really the 2 C's in my experience. Like, you've got to compensate people well. You can't be stingy about that. They've got to pay their bills. But the thoroughbreds, you got to let them contribute. Compensation and contribution. The really good ones that are capable of doing those things, you got to let them contribute, or they'll go somewhere. If people aren't contributing at the level that they think they're capable of, you'll lose the best ones. More time over than compensation. They're just not, people kind of have a lot of people have enough self-awareness, like, hey, I'm capable of playing at this level and this level. It's not, some people don't, but the ones that really, the real thoroughbreds versus the donkeys, the thoroughbreds know. They know who the donkeys are, they know who the thoroughbreds are, and they know when they're won. And if you don't let them run, and it's hard because they don't do things in the same way that we would do. Sometimes it's just stylistically different. If they get results,
being in a box, right? If they're a thoroughbred, like you said, you can't put a thoroughbred in a small cage. It's going to break out, right? So you got to give them more freedom as they grow with you.
And the bigger the organizations, the harder it is to let them do that. If you've been in an organization, or if y'all had been in organizations that had let y'all do that, you'd still be in those organizations probably performing at a high level. That's right. But they just can't help but, and I understand it's harder as you get larger to give people more discretion to make decisions. But that's the heck of it. It's not. Some people around here get irritated when I say this. But our business, as most business, it's really a commodity. It really is. Now, how you do it and execute on it isn't, but the job itself is really a commodity. But how you do it and how you deliver it's all the key. I mean, that's the part. That's the tough part of it. So we try to network as much as we can, learn from others, and let them. Specifically me, I'm bad about that because I'm kind of an operator mentality, and it's hard to get out of the way and let somebody do it, especially when they do it in their own style. But most of the time, it's just your ego. They actually do it better than you.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
just not the way you're used to it.
That's so frustrating. Like they don't do it the way you do it, and then they do it better than the way you do it. And like, then all you can do is hope around you get credit for it someday, you know?
Until it's your kid, and they're like, "I'm just a kid, Dad." Like, oh yeah. And going back to like, he had that situation, and like being the boss, he was avoiding certain things to make this hard decision. There's no right time to make a hard decision, and you know, I've had to learn, like, I got to make the phone calls that are nasty, or you have to be a jerk. You're not a jerk, but delivery and tact. But at the end, even if you are an asshole or a jerk, like, it's just, you forced me to make this decision.
Yeah, you got to make the hard decision.
Yeah, hire slow, fire fast, right? I've said that 1,000 times. He knows this, my best friend knows it. I started talking about letting this person go in November of last year and didn't do it until what, June or July? And I did it in June or July because my business had dried up. But I knew I needed to do it. As soon as I made the change, we bought 11, as soon as I got on the phone, we bought 11 houses in 6 weeks.
It's just avoiding that
it was
one thing.
You know, and it's so easy to do. I mean, to get caught in that. Even when you know it's happening, because you think you're being kind. Jack Welch, you know, y'all may not be too young, but at one time he was presumed to be one of the best CEOs. He grew GE at a time, you know, he was considered one of the best CEOs in the country. Wrote a lot of books. A guy named Jack Welch, and that was his deal. You know, he said he got a reputation early in his career as Neutron Jack. Like he comes in to take over a new division or whatever, GE, when they're in their heyday, and said at the end of the day, the building's still standing, but no one's there. The neutron bomb kind of thing. He's like, but he described it as false kindness, and I always try to remember that. It is so hard not to do. You just want to, I'm a fixer. I want to make them work out. You know, I want to convince them. Want to make it. Some people you just can't fix. And his idea was like, he resented the people that he'd take over a division. He'd get into a person and they're in their 40s. They've got 2 kids in college. They've known for 10 years that they're not going to perform at the level. But that's not kindness. That's false kindness. He'd rather let them go 10 years ago and get them in a position where they're going to be more successful. Because you're just not going to be successful. You're not a good fit. Now, which is more kind? He got the reputation for being the jerk. But he said, unfortunately, I've read your last 10 reviews, and they're all glowing, and your former boss knew that you weren't performing.
You're kind of doing them a disservice.
It's exactly right.
To their personal growth, too, because you're just letting them think, like, oh, I'm good. And people will kind of ride that out, too.
And if you can afford to do as much as you can, be kind, give them a good severance, and let them know, but you're not doing them any favors by not being honest with them. But it's so hard. That's one of the hardest parts in business. Like this person's, but in you know, I try to use a sports analogy, you know, you just can't play second base. I love you to death, but they can't, meritocracy, you can't do that in sports. You can't cover up somebody if they can't play a position. But in business, especially the bigger you go, well, we can just bury it. But it's not fair to the people around them.
That's right.
And when you remove that person, my old boss, you said the oxygen comes back in the room because the 5 don't, in the department, the 5 don't affect the 1 affects the 5. And when you do your job and get that person either fixed or get them out, the oxygen comes back in the room. And it's happened so many times, and every time, like you said, every time that I've done it or been a part of the decision to do it, the only regret I had, we didn't do it sooner.
Right.
Every time, but it's hard every time.
Yep.
And that's what, you know, some of those business people tell you. Business is hard. You know, it's hard decisions, you know, and some people don't want to do
I feel
that.
like working for somebody else. I feel like I'm the one sucking the oxygen out of the room because I'm stuck and I'm in this box, and you know what I mean? It's and you know, getting
bringing them
big
down.
companies, you know, it's just
A lot of bureaucracy.
yeah, it's
Like working for a big bank or something.
Yeah, but and I say that and I smile, but it's hard because, you know, when you go from one location or at least one market, we have multiple locations, but you go to another market and you go to another market, that tendency is just have them do what you do here.
Yes.
And trying to make the decision, okay, for some things, compliance, some policies, certain cultural things we're not going to deviate on. Our value set we're not going to deviate on. But letting those markets implement things and do things, everything from how they dress to what donations they make in the community, and it's a different market, even though it's right down the highway. And it's hard not to, because the math person, you or the system person, will just make it all consolidate and be the same.
Yeah, it's easier that way.
And people aren't the same.
Yeah.
well, it's like grocery
It's a lot
stores,
easier.
demographics.
Yeah.
Even in Waco, you go to every HEB. Some of them have things here, and the other things not here.
I've talked to people that run big distribution companies here, or one company here, and he was talking about how they have the same personnel type policy, right? And just things like geography and weather effects, you know, like their distribution company got a lot of distribution warehouse workers, and they have the same policy here as they do up in Michigan. Well, about number of hours they work, what time they get off, all this kind of stuff. And he said, people here that he wants to hire would like to come in earlier and leave earlier because in weather like this, they can do stuff. Well, they can't do that in October. And so they're like, well, that's crazy. Why would they want to get off at 3? It's cold outside. Well, headquarters is in Michigan. In Texas, it's nice, but they don't allow for these geographic changes because they got this policy everywhere, and he can't fix his plant to adjust for things that would affect his workforce.
Like
that
the
kind of thing.
thermostat that's in the headquarters in Michigan.
Yeah.
Oh, it's right. They have that.
Yeah.
I think Home Depot's on that shit. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time, man. It's,
yeah, awesome.
I learn every time I'm around folks like you. Y'all are great operators, and it's best to share.
Definitely out there trying.
Hopefully,
sure.
you'll either encourage someone to go out and make the leap, or make them pause and build up a little more capital or something before they do. Build a team around them. And one takeaway might be like, hey, go work for free for somebody for a while, or intern around them, or work on the weekends with them, and shadow them before you jump into that industry, because you might be seeing the good parts,
And I think like we all talked about and mentioned earlier is like somebody comes in with an idea, they may just show it to you or show it to friends, but then you go find somebody, a leading professional in that industry, and like, hey, is this a good idea? And some people are just out of touch with reality too and what they want to do.
They don't see the downsides, I had a last story. I had a pastor
that's all
tell
they
me.
see.
I grew up around in the church and around church for all my life. My father was involved in leadership. He wasn't a pastor, but he was involved in leadership. So this surprised me that I didn't pick up on this. But a prominent pastor here that's retired told me last year that he said, he's a very dynamic pastor. I call him the founding pastor of one of the big churches here. Really like the guy. He's great with people. And he said, neither one of my kids go to church. And I said, really? He said, yeah. And he said, but my wife and I, trying to be self-aware, said, I think we kind of spoiled them on the church because we didn't sit around at the time that they saw, the dinner table, the breakfast table, or whatever, and talk about all the benefits and the positive things I get out of ministry and what I do and why I do and all this. What they heard us talk about is a negative, about the deacons that this, or that the wife couldn't be perfect all the time, or whatever. And said, I think we just didn't shield them from the negative sides. All we talked about was the negative and didn't talk about that positive. So now they look at it and certainly have no desire to be in ministry, but they don't even have desire to be. So now, I think they're both believers. I think they believe in their faith, but they don't want any part of the church because of what we represent the church. And I think about that sometimes with small business people or entrepreneurs or whatnot. If you're not careful, you show one side, they see, well, you have the freedom to go out there right now. If you want to go play golf this afternoon, go play golf. You don't have to answer to a boss. But they don't think about, well, the bills are still coming, and I still got this and that,
Yeah, the late night.
Yeah. We're laying there looking at the ceiling like, what have we done?
Yeah, the biggest thing I would tell anybody going into entrepreneurship is, and this is something that you just learn with time or realize up front, is that you're the last person to get paid. The very last person. I just paid my line of credit. You're
Good for
welcome.
you.
It was due today.
And by the way, Mike, on the record right here saying, as you should.
Yeah, no, but
You pay yourself last.
No, that's right. The bank gets paid first, right? If I don't pay you guys, I lose my assets.
Or electric or whatever it is.
The bank's first on my priority. I'm not just saying that to the bank.
I guess I didn't get my check.
Yeah.
His is right here.
Yeah.
Like the other people, I get paid last at the end of the day. The people that provide the money, then the utilities and the insurance is right under that. I got to take care of the contractors and the subs and the materials, and then I got the employees, and I have office rent, and then I got all the systems that I have to have. I can't pay myself if my phones don't work.
Yeah.
The phone's got to work.
I hear you, brother.
So that's a big thing is just realize that entrepreneurship, it's an amazing journey. It's very rewarding, but you get paid last, so you need to make sure that you have a good plan and you're working hard to make sure that you can afford to pay yourself.
Yeah, you're the captain of the ship. You're the last one off.
You're the last one off, that's right.
Yeah, I remember that. My dad, to this day he died, he never really took any money out of the business to speak of. Kept it all in because of that fear. He grew up on a farm where, feast or famine. Right. He always had that fear, like someone had to protect the company. That's right. And there was no one there for the company to represent itself. And say, hey, wait, we're spending too much money or whatever, because he had that fear. And he lived, maybe he fed his family, and we all did fine, but he just never would. He had a fear about taking money out of the
Everybody
business.
starves their business when they start making a little money, and then they're like, oh, I didn't go buy this.
Yep.
And it's like, no,
Don't leave any capital in it.
Yeah.
And certainly don't have anything to grow with it, So, well, appreciate the time.
Thank you so
you bet.
much.
Always. Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
All right.